Morning, I want to talk to you just for a moment about don't forget where you came from. Usually when people get successful, people always tell them, don't forget where you came from. Or when they're starting out on their venue to become successful, people always will tell them, don't forget where you came from. Don't forget the people, the little people behind you. Don't forget those who helped you along the way. Usually there's sometimes, and even in a marriage where the husband wants to be a doctor, so the wife makes sacrifices so that the husband can go to medical school and become a doctor. And then sometimes they get into that profession of a doctor and they forget about the sacrifices that the wife made, and now the wife is not important anymore, and they want someone else, and they leave the wife who was there for them when nobody else was, that was there for them when they needed that extra boost of encouragement. But now, because they're considered to be important now, they forgot where they came from. And it can be the same thing in our Christian walk. We can forget where we came from. Okay, so now you've got the car, now you've got the house, now you've got a little money in the bank, but don't forget where you came from. Don't forget those people who helped you along the way. Don't forget those who were there when you didn't have anything, but they gave you out of their what they had, they gave to you. Don't forget those who stood by you when nobody else stood by you. Don't forget those who were helping you when no one else was helping you. It's amazing how sometimes we get up and we become successful, or we could become mature in God, or we become what we consider to be so spiritual, almighty, and have the anointing in our lives, and we forget about the people who were there when we were just a mess, and we were not a message, we were just a mess, and we wasn't a testimony, but we were a test. And those people who stood by us and helped us and loved us through the things that we needed to walk through, who didn't leave us and when things got bad, but was right there. Those who helped us when we needed financial blessing, who helped us when we needed someone to cry on the shoulder, who was there for us during those times, during those dark times. It's amazing how sometimes when we become more prosperous in our getting of material things and in considering in our spiritual maturity, we sometimes forget those who were there and know the real us. And so I would just ask you, don't forget where you came from. Don't forget the people who were there for you during your times. It's really paramount and important that we don't go through a process to get to progress, to get to prosperity, and then we forget about the people who were there in the beginning of the process. The process, the part where we started out, where we wasn't so lovable, where we wasn't so uh, nice and caring, but people stood by us anyway. Please don't get to the point where you're so uh, out there now. You're so that and all that in a bag of chips, as they would say, that you forget about the people who were there. So don't forget where you came from, because you wasn't always the way you are right now. And God has a way of taking you back to the process if you don't understand and remember where you came from. Love you. Be motivated today to know that God is God and that He is greater than you could ever imagine, and that the greater one that lives in you is greater than any circumstance you may ever face. Love you. Be blessed.